Hi, this is Beaux Pilgrim with Beaux Knows Insurance. Today I want to talk to you about renter's insurance. Now you may be thinking, what in the world is renter's insurance and do I need it? Well, if you rent the place that you live in, then yes, you need renter's insurance. And there's a lot of different questions that you may be thinking already or misconceptions that you may have. Well, I'm going to try to see if I can dispel those and help you to understand if you need it or not. And also one more thing, it's actually cheaper than you may think it is. Alright, so let's talk about renter's insurance. It is a coverage that everybody needs if you actually rent the place that you live in. Renter's insurance, let me just tell you a little bit about it, is, the first question is, do I need it? And I already said, yes, you do. You need renter's insurance if you rent the place that you live in. So if you rent a mobile home, you rent a house, you rent an apartment, you rent a condo, whatever it is, if you don't own it and you're paying rent to live there, or even if you're working out some sort of deal, you need renter's insurance. Now, a lot of people think that, that their landlord or their roommate or whoever else will take care of that, and that's just not the case at all. Let's first go back and let's talk about what renter's insurance is. So, renter's insurance is like a homeowner policy, but it's for the place that you rent. Now, the big difference there is that, remember, you're renting this place rather than owning it. So you don't own the actual building, but you do own everything that's inside of it. And then also there's some other things that you just need to make sure that you're covered for. It's like a homeowner policy, but it's for a rental property, meaning that you rent it. Not that you rent it out, but that you actually rent it to live in it. So if you reside there, you need a renter's policy. Some of the different things that are going to be taken care of in there are going to be things like your contents. You've got stuff, right? You work, you got a job, you acquired a lot of property, and that property is inside of whatever that apartment or condo or whatever it is, the house that you're renting, it's inside of that place. Well, if something happens, you need to make sure that that stuff is going to be covered. Well, what could happen? Well, you could have a fire. You could have a storm. You could have a vehicle run into your house. There's all kinds of things that could happen, there to your house or your apartment that would cause damage to the property that you own. What's in there? You've got your furniture, you've got your clothes, you've got your different appliances that maybe belong to you. You may be into music or art or something like that and have those sort of things too. You may also have maybe collectibles, maybe things that are of some value that you've been collecting that are very important to you. You want to make sure that if something happens to those things, it's going to be protected. Now, what are those things protected for? Well, there's fire, there's windstorm or some sort of storm damage, like maybe you have a hurricane or tornado or hail damage, and somehow or another it damages the roof and causes leaking inside of the apartment or condo. It damages your stuff. Maybe damages your dining room table, or also maybe your furniture that you have or your clothes or something like that. That can be covered underneath a renter's policy. Well, what else could happen? Well, somebody could break into your home and rob you and take the things that are inside of there. Well, that can be covered under a renter's policy. You may have something like maybe a ring. Maybe you're married and you have an engagement ring that's worth a lot of money. You can have that covered underneath your policy by scheduling it underneath that policy. There's all kinds of different things that can be covered there that would not be otherwise. Well, you may say, well, won't my landlord take care of that for me? The answer is no, absolutely no. Their policy is not going to provide that for you. They're not going to provide property coverage for the things that you own. Their policy is only going to take care of the building itself and that structure. But depending on what your agreement is, especially if you have a condo, you may have to have a condo policy that's going to cover a part of the building, so to speak, depending on what that contract says. And you need to be aware of that. But if you're renting, still, that landlord policy is not going to take care of your contents at all. Not a single bit. What are some other things that are covered underneath there? Well, things such as liability. That's a big word that we throw out, and you hear the word like libel and slander and other words like that. Well, all that stuff falls underneath this word called liability that's covered underneath a homeowner policy or also under a renter's policy. If you don't have a renter's policy and you rent, your policy is not going to take, your landlord's policy is not going to take care of you. You have to have your own. Well, you say, well, Beaux, what could happen? Why would I ever need liability insurance? Well, here's some different scenarios that maybe can help you to understand why you would need it. Let's say that someone comes to visit you and somehow or another they get hurt. They're coming in through your door. The carpet is like slightly loose, or the threshold from one doorway to another is maybe slightly loose, and they trip over it and they fall and they hurt themselves, pretty seriously. Potentially you could become responsible for their lost wages, their injury, their time off from work, also their medical bills and rehabilitation. All those different things can really add up a lot. You will have to pay that out of pocket if you don't have liability insurance. So your liability insurance can take care of that for you. Another situation is you go on vacation and something similar happens there while you're on vacation. In your apartment, your condo, your hotel room, or maybe you're just out on vacation, just out in the public somewhere, and something happens. Let's say someone says, well, he said something to me that hurt me physically, hurt me emotionally, and they bring some sort of an action against you. Your liability policy can respond for that. That's called libel and slander. Your policy can take care of that for you. Not only will it pay the claim for you, but it also will represent you. It'll take care of providing you with an attorney to make sure that you are represented in court. So if someone brings some sort of accusation against you, they will come in and take care of that for you. That way you're not having to defend yourself personally, because I can promise you, they're gonna have an attorney. That attorney, that's what they do for a living, is they argue, they bring an accusation against other people for their client's benefit. You don't do that for a living. No matter how good you may be at arguing, I promise you cannot out-argue an attorney. That's why you need your liability insurance through your renter's policy to provide you with an attorney that also is trained to defend you against those accusations. Some other things that you can get under that policy is medical payments is another thing. Medical payments is kind of like a no-fault liability coverage. So if someone were to get hurt, they don't have medical insurance of some sort to take care of whatever the medical bills are, this part of the policy can take care of that. Usually that's lower limits than you would have under your liability. Your liability is usually going to be $300,000 or $500,000 or even $1 million for your liability limits, whereas medical payments is going to be something more similar to like maybe a couple thousand, $5,000, or maybe even $10,000. Because remember, this is a no-fault coverage to just kind of help fill in the gap if someone is injured. And it's not your fault, but they just don't have other resources to go to. And it's not for you or for your family or the people that reside with you. It's going to be for people outside of your immediate family or that reside with you. How much does it cost? Well, here's the fact. It's not very expensive. And look, between you and me, sometimes I've even seen when you've paired it with your auto insurance, it could cost almost nothing because of the discounts you get by pairing those two policies together. Now, I can't promise that'll be the situation, but we can certainly help make sure that the costs are minimized. But typically, $100 to $300 is what the typical renter's policy will cover, depending on the limits that you request and also how much coverage you need on your contents. So let's talk about that. So how much do I need? You've probably got all kinds of different numbers flying in your head right now, but the best way to do it is really to think about this. One, when it comes to your personal property or your contents limit, is just do a simple inventory. Walk through your house, maybe take some pictures of each room, kind of look at all the stuff, and just start adding those numbers up in your head or start writing them down. You're soon gonna find out that you've got more stuff than you thought you had. Don't short yourself on that, because if something happens and, like, let's say that you have a fire and it completely takes everything out, you wanna make sure you got enough to get all those things back. Do yourself a favor, do an inventory, see what you have, put some values to those, how much it's gonna cost you to replace those things, and make sure that you're using that number, what it would actually cost to replace those things, and not just what the depreciated amount would be, because you wanna make sure that you've got replacement costs in the policy. Take an inventory, go around, take some pictures, and keep that somewhere. You probably have some sort of a free storage device online somewhere. Maybe if you have a Gmail account, it comes with a little bit of online storage. If you have an iPhone or an Android, all those come with some sort of an online storage that's free. Upload those things to that place so you have them. So if you have a claim, you can go back to them and be reminded of what you had, so you can help. That will help you significantly with your claim if you have a claim. So let's talk about liability insurance. That's the second piece. Remember, that's the really important piece. And this is a little bit more complicated. Really, this is probably more important, Because again, remember, this is the piece that could really become a really large number if something happens and someone brings suit against you because they say you did them wrong. You want to make sure that you got an attorney and it's got enough money in there to take care of that, and also whatever potential claim may actually be paid. Because remember, in those situations, we may be talking about a claim that's paid not over at a single time, but over years to come potentially, depending on what happens from that claim. Because we could be talking about rehabilitation, mental anguish, and all kinds of other things. So what do you need to think about? You need to think about yourself. What type of career that you have, how much you earn in the career that you have, how much property you have, what the size of your estate or your assets are. If you got a lot of money saved and invested, or also you have a large earning potential, you need to go with higher limits. The fact is, it's real easy and really inexpensive to buy $500,000 in liability limits. It's just not going to cost you much more to buy that versus $300,000 or $100,000. So I suggest go ahead and buy $500,000. The next question is going to be, well, do I need even more? If you're a business professional, some sort of other professional, and you've got a large earning potential, you know that you need to protect not only your current assets, but also your future earning potential. That way, some sort of situation that happens does not become a burden to you and to your family down in the future. So you may want to entertain buying an umbrella policy. An umbrella policy is simply a policy that adds another layer of liability coverage over top of your renter's policy. It's like a second layer. So you got $500,000 in your renter's policy, you may buy another $1 million, $2 million, or even $3 million, or even more above that policy to make sure that you don't run out of limits for a severe claim that you could potentially happen. Again, yes, to recap, everybody needs a renter's policy. If you rent a home, a condo, a mobile home, a apartment, whatever it is, yes, you need a renter's policy for both yourself, for your contents, as well as also to protect your assets. Will your landlord's policy protect you? No, absolutely, positively no. If you have a roommate, will theirs protect you? Again, emphatically, no, it will not. The cost is really inexpensive. $100 to $300, maybe a little bit more depending on how much coverage you want. If you have to schedule some things that it covers is going to be your contents, your personal property, your liability, to protect your assets, and then also I did cover how much that you need to cover for yourself. So if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please make sure that you click on the subscribe button. Also click that notification button. That way you catch every time we put up a new video, here on Beaux Knows Insurance. Also, make sure that you check us out by clicking on the link that's up above so you can learn more about us. Also, I do have another video and article on umbrellas so you can know more about that, because I did mention that in this video. I have another one about homeowners. If you're looking at moving from the renter situation to a homeowner, make sure you check out that video and also the blog article on that. As always, we're glad to help you out in any way we can. Make sure that you comment and like the video. Leave any comments, any questions that you may have. If you like the video, please let us know about that too. If there's some other questions that you really would like to know that I haven't covered, hey, leave that in the notes down below and I'll make sure to address that for you. I promise you, if you've got the question, others do too. Again, this is Beaux Pilgrim, Read Insurance with Beaux Knows Insurance. Always glad to help you out in any way I can. See you next Thursday.